As we reflect on the scriptures this morning, what was impressed in my heart is the letter of St. Paul to the Philippians, verse that we are very familiar with. He says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice." And then he says, "The Lord is near." So this morning, as we identify with the apostles, Apostle Paul, with the disciples, and especially Guru, we have a struggle identifying ourselves with the Pharisees, but for most of us, we can really identify with the Pharisees. And you see, the Lord is near. He is always at work in our lives. That's why in Job he says that, are you afraid? You have so much fear and reverence towards the Leviathan, but you won't dare wake him up. You won't dare do this to him. But I am greater and stronger and magnificent than that. You fear the most. You should fear me. So here in the readings, as we begin to reflect, the Lord is near. Our great God is always near. Even in situations like we find ourselves like the disciples. It says in the gospel that, the Christ was, prophecy was being fulfilled in their midst. And yet the disciples did not understand what was happening. And sometimes in our lives, those things happen. There are things that prophecies are being fulfilled in our midst. And yet we don't have an inkling of them as being fulfilled in their midst. Like the disciples. It says there that they did not understand what was happening in the midst of the fulfillment of the prophecy that their king, their humble king, is coming to Jerusalem. And they shouted, "Hosanna." I think it's in Micah or somewhere that the prophecy was proclaimed. And at the same time, the Pharisees, whom we say are insensitive and are against Christ, in the last verse of the Gospel, they prophesied. And that prophecy is still true today. Coming from their mouth, from the mouth of someone who is angry, coming from the mouth of someone who is frustrated, "Look, the world is coming after him." The world is coming after him. From the mouth of the Pharisees. And that is still true. The world is coming after Jesus, even at this time. From the mouth of the Pharisees who were frustrated, who were angry. And looking at the Psalms also, if we will look at the Psalms, most of the Psalms are prayers out of frustration, out of desperation. And if you will look from that frustration and desperation, are most of the prophecies concerning the life, death, crucifixion, and resurrection of Christ, the fulfillment of the Messianic prophecy, coming from the mouth of those who are in situations that are desperate, frustrating, and being angry. The same thing in the book of Acts. We can see there, they were forbidden by Christ to go here. The Spirit of Jesus did not forbid, guided them to many places. And sometimes we look at that as, when the Spirit guides us, it's there's peace and joy and something in us, spiritual, and our attitude is 100% holy. But if we will put ourselves in the lives of the apostles, maybe it's a frustrating situation that they were able to read. A situation that may be frustrating and making them angry, and yet by that frustration and anger, they were guided by the Spirit of God. So what I'm saying is, God can work and open doors in the midst of our frustration. And maybe God is talking to us in the midst of our frustration. And maybe we are prophesying in the midst of our frustration. Why? Because Job says, God is an awesome God. God works. These are, we have to learn how, meron tayo, these things that I'm sharing are sometimes we call an antithesis to prayer and spirituality. Because sometimes, or most of the time, we say that we are spiritual, when we have this, when all things are good, when all things are working together, then that's prayer. Then we are spiritual. Then we are this. Then we are that. And when we are frustrated, anger, and hopeless, and seemingly without direction, we say that God is not involved. But that cannot be. God is always involved in our lives. Even Isaiah 53 says that Jesus was acquainted with sorrow and grief. And yet in his sorrow and grief, he was there giving salvation to humanity. A question to ask ourselves this morning. In our frustration, in our hopelessness, and what we call as negative things, maybe God is opening doors for us in the midst of this. Maybe from out of our mouth, we will be able to prophesy like the psalmist. Maybe out of our heart, we'll be able to open doors like Paul. Maybe out of our heart, we will be able to recognize the fulfillment of the prophecies in life. That's how great God is. We cannot limit Him according to our standard of how He works in our lives. He works in our lives even in the midst of what we call negative attitude and situation. Amen. So rejoice. God is always